Okay, we are live again with our third session for the morning and the last session before we take a lunch break. You guys know Dr. Thando Sibanda. He was one of our speakers yesterday. Welcome back, Thando.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Okay, great. So Thando's gonna give us an amazing talk again. As I always say, get involved. Give us a thumbs up. Lucky, Dario, Joey, Peter, I mean, thanks for joining. We hope you enjoy this session. I hope also you've got your hot stuff or your cold stuff. I've been talking so much this morning that I definitely need my tea. So cool. I'm going to hand you over to Thando, and again, I'm moderating. I'll see you guys online. Thando, you can take it away from here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, a very good morning. I'm in the part of Joburg. There's a little bit of sun and a little bit of cloudiness, but I'm very excited to be back this morning. Hi, Lucky. Good to see you, man. Dario, Joy. Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm sure we'll have a good time of just learning together this morning. And as I said, I'm Dr. Thando Sibanda. I'm a neuroscientist. I'm a leadership consultant. I speak on culture, I speak on mindset, I speak on leadership, I speak on effective teamwork, and I just help people and organizations move from one point where they are towards their desired goals. I do personal development coaching at executive level. It's called personal breakthrough coaching. So I'm very, very excited. I'm sure if you want to find me, you can just probably just check the slides there. That's where all my social media and my emails are. But I'd really love to get in touch and just to move things forward. Now, this morning I'm going to share on a topic of particular interest to me, and it's called the reset button, making a positive change decision for your business. Making a positive change decision for your business. I think it's very important for us to understand our change tolerance as well as our change readiness, especially when we're in the context of where we find ourselves in terms of businesses and business. It's a very unique time. In fact, I want to say that things were bad enough, by the way, before the coronavirus landed. Things were already bad enough from just a business perspective and how business is going. I'm saying this from the context that South Africa has a couple of million businesses registered. I saw a report that said it's 5.7, another one says it's 2.5. But either way, there is consensus that the challenge is that close to over 60 something percent, close to 70% of the businesses are survivalist, right? Now, survivalist businesses are businesses that where entrepreneurs or business people are living from hand to mouth. It means that the businesses would not be able to survive beyond just a couple of months, because every month what they make is what they eat. It's almost like the African proverb that says, you eat what you kill kind of thing. There is no storage of any sort. You eat what you kill. So that's the situation. And of course, we've got a much bigger challenge, because when you look at SMEs and small businesses and, more or less like what most of us do here, are supposed to be the backbone of the economy. They are supposed to be creating the jobs, and in fact, they say globally, SMEs account or should account for up to 95% of employment. But when you look at our country with a 29-30% official unemployment rate, which actually translates to about 35% when you take in all the factors, when you look at that level of unemployment, and just the fact that actually it's government and large corporations that employ up to 56% of the working population, you realize that already anyone who owns a small business is in trouble. So things were bad enough before the virus came along. And so today I'm going to talk to you about just your capacity to change, your ability to change and what the implications are for your business, and what the implications are for someone who's doing business within the context of South Africa. It's very interesting, by the way, that the NDP, the National Development Plan, within the context of South Africa, stipulates that by 2030, we should have at least between 60 and 80% of the GDP, being pushed by SMMEs. But I don't know. I don't think we will hit that at the rate at which things are going, at the rate at which things have evolved. So it's very, very important for us just to understand where we are at. And then, of course, the coronavirus came and made things worse. So the coronavirus took a bad situation and made it worse. Because we had to shut down the economy, not because we wanted to, but because the situation called for it. It was a health emergency and not necessarily an economic emergency in the sense of the context, even though already, the economy was not really doing that great, especially for small businesses. You've all seen where we're at over 5,000 cases, it's affected businesses. We're in a lockdown. Companies like Edcon are now filing for business rescue, and there's been talk, will they open, will they not reopen, and the biggest issue about that, by the way, so you don't look at it as a business person and say, well, it's only Edcon, they are big. They lost 2 billion rand just in the context of the lockdown. But you've got to understand this from the fact that Edcon relies on suppliers, small businesses like you and me, so they can't pay suppliers. So it means that we are still affected. Why? Because Edcon cannot pay its suppliers. And therefore, the domino effect of the current situation is terrible on a very, very large extent. And that is why we've got to understand that this challenge is a big challenge for all of us. It's big. It's small businesses that make the big ones possible, especially in this case. And ladies and gentlemen, it is a VUCA world. It's business unusual. And you see, when you understand just the whole VUCA terminology, the US War College introduced this term, I think it was 1987, somewhere there, at the end of the Cold War, when the Soviet Union, collapsed and all of that. And they introduced it to actually speak to the volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, and the ambiguousness of the prevailing atmosphere that would follow. They're saying, well, now it's going to be a VUCA world. And so now understanding that that volatility, which is characterized by rapid and unexpected change, would lead to uncertainty, unreliable, not consistent, unpredictable, and then complex, made up of different integrated and complex parts. And of course, ambiguous, which means doubtful or uncertain. That was the world. And so the term was taken and made popular in boardroom strategy and visions. And today, it's really a very big buzzword. And it is true. We are in the middle of one of the most pronounced VUCA environments ever. I don't think we've ever been at this place. It is business unusual. And so a business unusual calls for entrepreneurs and for business people to engage a business at the level of the situation. And of course, the main question is, what does the future hold? You see, that's the thing with uncertainty. What does the future hold? We want to know what's the future carrying for us? What is the future? What does tomorrow look like? And it's a global state of uncertainty. Everybody is not sure. It's actually, by the way, the first time in the world where if you put on the news, you watch what's happening in America, there is uncertainty. You listen to Donald Trump, and there's a lot of uncertainty. You go to Italy, Spain, it's uncertainty. You come back to Africa, even worse. It's a situation and the context of uncertainty. And it is then that I then ask, I'm just going to do a quick poll here. Just participate with me on that. It says, how clear are you about where your business is going? How clear about you are you about where your business is going. You see, it's really that's it. All right, lovely. I see 50% are very clear. 40% are not quite clear. You know, yeah, 17% say I'm not sure if I still have a business. Well, that is the situation. That's really the situation. I agree with you, and thank you so much, guys, for participating in this. Now, when you hear the question, what does the future hold? The entrepreneur must listen to it with a very different ear. They must listen to it with a different perception and understanding. The question you should be hearing is not necessarily what does the future hold. No, for you as a business person, it should be how tolerant and ready for change am I? So that it's not about being a dinosaur, it's not about perishing in this context, but it's about pressing the reset button in your mindset and in your business and adapting ahead of the change curve. So what you are hearing needs to be different from the questions that everyone is asking, because really the issue is not whether you are willing to participate in the business of the future. The question is whether are you ready for change? Are you willing to change? How tolerable are you to change, especially when there are so many moving parts at the moment? How clear is your vision? Remember, vision is not just about what you see. It's a combination of two factors. In fact, vision is a combination of your sight and your imagination. It's very important that those two faculties be working hand in hand and side by side so that you can easily get into where the future is going. Do you see clearly? What are your plans? Do you have any plans? I think, guys, it's very important at this point so that we don't just become mere flotsam and jetsam in this river of events, and we don't quite see where we are going, and we have no capacity to see where we are going. That's why right now your vision is a function of what you see, but also what you imagine for the future. And that's why my talk today is really encouraging you to press that reset button from a mental perspective as well as from an ideas perspective so that you can participate in the business of the future and not suffer. You see, the thing is that when you understand what I call the disruption matrix right now is no longer industry based. So it's not people within your industry that will disrupt your industry. No, it's now ideas based. And case studies prove that. And Elon Musk will come in. He's not a car engineer, and he'll come and introduce Tesla and disrupt the market. He is not a solar technician. He will introduce, Tesla solar and put panels on every roof, disrupt the market. You know, he's not necessarily an astronaut by training, but guess what? He's gonna do stuff and launch things into space. You see why? Because the disruption matrix has changed. In fact, I recommend you look at the 6 Ds of disruption. They pretty much explain the whole thing. And so your vision is critical as a business leader. Your vision is one of the most important tools that you can rely on because it has to have sight. You see where you are going, but also you can imagine what the future should look like and where you need to go. In fact, it reminds me of this illustration, the difference between a fair weather pilot and an instrument panel pilot. Now, I've been looking at some flying lessons, and I find this very interesting, specifically for me because the first thing is they say, well, do you want to be a fair weather pilot? Do you want to be an instrument panel pilot? Well, a fair weather pilot, here's the thing, only flies in clear skies. Sun must be there, must be nice. The fair weather pilot must be able to see, oh, there is the sun, the skies must be blue, the clouds must be clear, then the fair weather pilot can take his plane up and can fly because he is not trained or he is not wired for any different happenings. I remember one time I was flying to the United States, took off from OR Tambo 9 p.m. at night, and suddenly there was a storm. There was a storm. And when there was a storm, the pilot came on and said, ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing very, very severe thunderstorms. But what we're going to do, we're going to take the plane up to, 30,000 feet or so. I think those were the figures he mentioned. And we're going to fly above the storm. It's going to be bumpy for a few minutes, but don't worry, we got it figured out. We know what we're doing, and we'll get you safely to Dallas, Texas. Now, interestingly, by the way, I then understood the difference between fair weather flying and the instrument panel flying. So this was an instrument panel pilot, a very experienced pilot who does not even need line of sight. He can fly blind because he relies on his instruments. He can see where he is. There's rudder control. There's aileron control. There's all of these different types of he knows his climb indicator. He can understand the elevator and throttle control, and he can literally fly blind because he understands his instruments. And therefore, when it comes to business, what kind of a business operator are you? Do you only fly when it's fair weather, when everything is clear? There's government programs in place, there's no turmoil in the economy, there's no challenges like your corona, then I've got a business. Or even when you hit turbulence and you hit storms and you hit resistance, you can still hold on to the reins of your business and not let go. It's very important because uncertainty can cause what I call the fear and freeze response in all of us. Have you ever seen a guy who's walking at night and then something shows up in the bushes? I was going to play one of those videos for you. Very interesting. It's a concept called run, where there is an immediate danger that shows up there. Before your fight and flight response kicks in, the fear paralyzes you. You are standing there and you know you need to run, but somehow the adrenaline rush just knocks you out and you have no energy to run. That's the challenge with uncertainty. A lot of us right now find ourselves in a situation and a condition of uncertainty where we are really not sure, are we going to make it? What are we going to do? When a lot of our gigs, for example, I'm a speaker, right? I speak and I consult, and I rely on going to my clients and different companies and doing what I do. But when the whole lockdown commenced, I found myself with a very clear diary and calendar on work opportunities I'd already ticked and said, yes. Suddenly, I've got a very clear calendar and a gaping bank account like this. It's like, dude, when are you going to throw stuff inside there? And then I realized that, oh my God, here's a challenge. So do I freeze and I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Or as Eugene says, I start engaging the new normal. I adapt. See, it's a very interesting position to be in because uncertainty can paralyze you. It can cause you to freeze instead of moving fast. And this is why we are having this conversation, because I think it is very important for us to be able to change over faster than the change rate. And let me share a couple of things concerning change that are very important and positioning yourself, pressing that mental reset button. It's important to have a mindset shift. Remember, as I shared even in my session yesterday, change first begins in the mind. Winning first starts in the mind. It's first a science before it becomes an art. It's first in the mind before it becomes an activity. And therefore, embrace change because change is a constant. When we look at the whole life of a butterfly, it doesn't matter whether you appreciate the maggot or you appreciate the actual butterfly or you appreciate the cocoon. It's all a process of change. It's an evolving process of change. In fact, so are you, by the way. You are a cell that is moving through time. And you are constantly evolving. At some point, you were a zygote. At some point, you didn't have proper form. You know, the head was bigger, you had a tail, and all of that. And you've been undergoing change first in your first 9 months. Then, when you were born, you were a very helpless little baby. And yet, today, you are the breadwinner for your family. So, life itself is an evolving context of change, where change is a constant. But here is the challenge. The challenge is that human beings are not naturally wired to change. The science, rather our biology, our neuroscience, does not make us friends to change, because we form our habits through repetition. We form our neural networks, how we think, how we respond to things, how we act, how we do things. We follow patterns, and the patterns are a result of repetition. So what do you do if by your science, by your very act of creation, your biology makes you adverse to change? It means, therefore, that your change matrix needs to be an intentional one. It needs to be something you think through. It must engage your neocortex, your thinking brain, and you say, I have to consistently make myself aware that I need to change. It's almost like eating healthy. I think guys who are very good at eating healthy, do that because they've done it so long, but there were days where they started to remind themselves, I just can't do cake for breakfast, lunch, and dinner kind of thing. I gotta throw in some greens somewhere. And we grew up thinking, we are meat eaters, we eat meat, and so we neglected other things. But we had to make mental choices to say, I need to eat right, I need to exercise. Now, maybe you look forward to the gym and you've created something, but there were times when you literally, would cringe. I've got to wake up at the gym, I've got an exercise regimen. I've missed it for the last couple of days. I've been having morning things. So I justify it in my head. No, I've got a session. I got to wake up and prepare, because I know that when I do that T25 focus, high intensity training, my body screams out. So I don't like change. But what I like is not necessarily the big factor here. It's about what I need to do if I'm going to be active, or if I'm going to be present within the economic matrix for generations to come. So embrace change. It is a constant. We've got to understand that. And let me just do another poll here. I'll do another poll and just get to understand this. How tolerable are you of change? How tolerable are you of change? How do you tolerate change? How good are you at understanding change and tolerating change? Change is a constant. It is happening. Wow, great. 80% of our people say, well, I change quite easily. And then I've got a good 20% that says, well, I don't like change at all. Well, I'm glad to speak to people who have adjusted to the context of change. Here, let me share with you some trajectories and some main points concerning change. The first, and each trajectory for change, by the way, has a different outcome. And that's why this first one says, change before you have to. That's trajectory one. So when you're faced with a change situation like what we have right now, in fact, the concept is change before you have to. Imagine if before the crisis hit already, a couple of months or even a couple of years back, you had set up your online business and you shifted from the physicality of it into the multimedia space of it, into the social media space of it. It's called changing before you have to. It's a big win. Do you know why? Because you are changing on your terms. There is nothing as amazing as changing on your terms and your own parameters. It's like knowing that smoking is bad for you and you kind of give it up. Change on your own terms. I'm reminded of, Richard Branson, Sir Richard Branson from Virgin. He says, if we did not take the risk and jump ahead into opportunities, we would still be a record company. Wow. That's what the guy says. Well, this was way back in 1972 when they started the Virgin Group. 1972. Well, did Virgin remain a record company, Virgin Records? No, they evolved. Today they are worth over what? 7, 8, 9 billion pounds, by the way. They employ about 71,000 people, and they're in different spaces. Virgin Active, Virgin Atlantic, there is now Virgin Healthcare. They are now going to the stratosphere. They are in banking. They are in the mobile field. They are literally everywhere. Why? They changed before they had to, and they created a value proposition that guaranteed them a future of participation. So changing before you have to is a win. It's a big win because you change on your own terms. So those that had already shifted, I know right now I've been, some of my clients, the conversation I had with them before the lockdown, they said to me, Dr. T, we are actually just struggling to set everyone up to work from home. But we've been talking agile for a while. We've been talking agility, as a business concept, Scrum, agile. All of these concepts have been available, but some of your big behemoths have not necessarily jumped ahead into them. So now there is a lockdown. Now you have to work from home. Now you've got to deliver on your customer expectations. But now your managers don't have the networks at home. They have no fiber. Now they've got to be buying data on their MTN and their Vodacom SIM cards and trying to stream and this and that, and the apps are freezing because there is no bandwidth. See, now you're changing, but it's not on your own time. And that's the second trajectory. I call it changing because you have to. Now, changing because you have to is all about adaptability. Leaders need to be more flexible than ever because long-range plans are often obsolete by the time implementation is started. You need to adapt. Adapt, see where things are going, and move. How adaptable are you? So you changing because you have to. It's still a win, but it's not an easy win. It's a difficult win. It's a difficult win because now you are changing because if you don't change, you go obsolete. We say adapt or die, turn or burn kind of thing. Whenever there is a challenge, it's like going to the doctor. The doctor says, dude, if you don't give up drinking, your liver is gone. If you don't give up smoking, here is the health challenge. Now you've got to engage in behavioral change because there is a consequence to it. Guess what? You can do it and win. It's still a win, but it's a very difficult win. But guess what? It's still a great win because we do have companies, by the way, that are now multi-billion-dollar conglomerates because they changed, they adapted. Remember Netflix? Netflix started as a VHS mail company. They would mail you your movies. They would mail your DVDs, put them on the post, and deliver them to you, and this and that and that. That was what they were. But they evolved. Reed Hastings evolved the company into a streaming service. And guess what? Today they are worth multi-billions, by the way. Why? Because they were able to adapt. So when the internet came, it found them adapting and they were able to move into the bigger stream of business. Now they are even making their own movies. They are not just waiting to show other people's movies. We all know Yellow Pages. Who amongst us didn't have a Yellow Page? We all had Yellow Pages and the big thick ones where you could find everything. Well, the company also evolved. They adapted. Now they have Yale.com, still the same service that you find only quicker. You find everything quicker, and they have stayed in business. You also know of Amazon, by the way. Amazon started off selling books, but they adapted. Today, they are the biggest internet seller in the world. You can buy anything on Amazon, and they can even deliver it within the hour through their Amazon Prime thing. So it's about how well do you adapt to the concept of change. Very interesting. Number 3, changing after you have to. Oh, that's terrible. Changing after you have to is very, very is a very big loss. I'm sure some of us here will remember the Titanic, the mighty Titanic, built over a 3-year period in Belfast. A lot of fanfare about it, and it set off on its maiden voyage in 1912, and it sank within hours of its maiden voyage. And of course, the question is always, what really sank the Titanic? Isn't it? What sank the Titanic? Well, it was said to be unsinkable. What sank the Titanic? That's the question I want you to think about. A lot of us think, well, it's the iceberg that sank the Titanic. Well, physically, it was the iceberg that sank the Titanic. But you've got to understand that the story behind the story was just the refusal to change. They pushed the schedule, and some of the compartments were not built with the proper material because they wanted the PR to be big, to be used. They crammed people, they didn't have enough lifeboats. I mean, what is it? 1,700 people died when the Titanic sank. And the voices that raised concern and said, no, let's be better prepared and let's keep to the normal speed. All of those voices were not heard because those were voices that were clamoring for change, and the change didn't happen. We remember Kodak, the story of Steven Sasson, in 1975, who walked in, discovered the first megapixel. He was an engineer at Kodak, and he told them, guys, I've discovered the megapixel. And they said, well, how long will it take for prime time? He said, well, probably 20, 25 years. And he didn't count on the forces, on the exponential nature of disruption. And they shut him down. They said, no, we own the Kodak moment. We own the industry. We own everything. If we now start innovating and adapting and moving ahead and going digital, we're going to lose because remember, they owned the Kodak cameras, they owned the film. You remember the 24 exposures, the 36 exposures, you take, and then they owned the processing labs, and then they owned the processing paper. They literally had the industry in a corner. Market capitalized for a good, 100-year-old company. $32 billion market capitalization. And my question to you is, what sank Kodak? There is Steven Sasson there. You can see with his, that was the first megapixel, the first digital camera. And when Kodak shut him down, at least he patented that. The Kodak shut him down, and guess what? When the digital camera came, Kodak's business vanished overnight. Vanished overnight. Now, because I could now take photos on my digital camera, guess what? I did not need the Kodak film. They lost that business. Secondly, I didn't need to print because now I could share the pictures online. So now they lost the printing business. And then the cameras are now digital. They actually lost the very camera itself. It's dematerialized. So you see, changing after you have to is a huge loss. By the time they tried to catch up, other players were in the market and they had taken over. You remember Blackberry. Everybody had a Blackberry. What sank Blackberry? Remember BBM? Everyone had a BBM. It was all over the world, one of the most profitable companies. What sank them? I remember in 2008 when the iPhone came, the Blackberry virtually disappeared. Why? Because the Blackberry CEO said, well, phone without buttons, who would want that? Well, as it turned out, the world wanted a phone without buttons. They counted on people's addiction to Blackberry and thought people couldn't adapt or change. Well, the market changed and the market became different and Blackberry lost its business. By the time they tried to change and introduce phones without buttons, the world had moved on with new lovers called Apple and some of the other guys. The common denominator here is not the iceberg there. It's not the digital camera there. It is not the phone without buttons for Blackberry. No, the common denominator is the fact that they changed too late. They changed too late. See, when you change too late, a huge business that has been going for years will lose its pace. You become, the behemoths can die in no time at all simply because of change. And that's why it's important for us to understand that we need to embrace the future. Let's embrace the future. This was in 1973, by the way, when the $6 million man came up. And it was in 1976 when the Bionic Woman came up. I know I used to love watching this, and they looked like, science fiction. But actually it was convergence because they were introducing robotics. Embrace the future. Wise guys that watched those films decided, we need to actually come up with robots in our car factories. And they went into the robotics field. And today robots are making cars, they're making planes, they're making everything. We have industrialized and we have moved on. Why? Because some business people embrace the future and they are reaping all the good things out of it. Let me just play a quick video here, and I'll then close out that. Right. Now, that's what's happening. That's what other people are thinking about. If you are thinking, well, let me manufacture more aeroplanes, let me manufacture, aeroplane car seats, aeroplane seats and all of that, guess what? You're already behind because someone is already thinking about the business of the age, where we're going to be moving from everywhere in under an hour, anywhere on the globe, because we're going to be moving straight via the orbit. So you need to think about business in that context. Stimulate your imagination. Make sure you are able to think. Make sure you are able to see where the future is going. Use that mental capacity that is unique only to human beings and create the business of the future. I want to say, as I'm closing, create a culture of change. Culture is how we actually show up. Make change part of your culture. Don't have a culture about other things and you cannot change. Why? Because strategy is the rocket, but culture is the fuel. If you have a culture of change, you will be able to get to where you need to go. Why? Because, by the way, the fuel of a rocket that goes into the moon needs to be up to 20 times the weight of the actual rocket itself. So you need more fuel than you actually need the weight of the rocket. So you need your ability to change must be bigger than any other ethos that you have as far as how your business works. And lastly, my last slide here says the speed of the pack is the speed of the leader. The speed of the pack is the speed of the leader. It's very important that if everybody that follows at your speed, at your pace. You can lead people in any direction, forward or backwards. But your business will only move at the pace that you, the leader, are moving. The people that follow you will follow your example, and that is the speed at which you are going. I really hope and trust that this has been a great presentation and you have really gotten some benefit out of it. I just want to close by asking, was this helpful? Was this information helpful for you today? Please just take a moment as we close to fill in that poll I want to say thank you so much. Thank you for those responses, and have a good time. You know where to get hold of me. I'm very excited. Thanks for the privilege to speak to you today. God bless. Have a great day.
Fantastic. I mean, well done. I'll definitely have a coffee on you. Amazing thought leading there, and I love the slides that tell the story of how we need to change. And I think also in my talks, I tend to use these examples like Kodak and the outliers. As a matter of fact, today I'm the last speaker at 3 o'clock, and my talk is about the big picture of modern day marketing. And I also touch on some of those outliers that, like you say, I mean, don't be forced into a change, be ahead of the curve. And I think now, like the previous presenters also said, like Pierre this morning, use the crisis, because you're either going to have the crisis change you, or you're going to change the crisis. So Thando, your last slide there with the lions are perfect. I mean, be the leader, think out of the box. I mean, all these presentations have fallen into a storyline so well for me. So guys, thank you for joining Thando, for all your contributions to the slides. We're going to take a break now. So this is our lunch break. We will be back at 1 o'clock today. And then we have Jody again. You guys will remember Jody. He's a marketing and sales specialist and a branding specialist, not a sales specialist, a marketing and a branding specialist. And he's going to take you through social media marketing, which is really fascinating, and it's very practical. If you look at his talk last week, it was very practical. So Thando, or Dr. Thando, let me say thank you very much for your contribution. I'm going to stop these slides there. I see you guys have done the last poll, very helpful. I'm very glad to say everyone voted 100% helpful. Thank you for your contribution. I will see you guys online at 1 o'clock for the next session. Feel free to register for it now once we leave the session. Thank you, everyone. See you later.
Thank you.